That's where your body will be within half an hour. I was raised in a fairly strict but loving Christian household in the Bible Belt. My parents weren't at all unreasonable in their rules and were well intentioned, but I broke a few along the way like most teenagers do. The summer before I started college, I began a relationship with a slightly older guy. I knew him from high school, and he was attending the college I would soon be at. Johny. Johny was a catch. He was exceptionally handsome, had been on the football team, and was on a full academic scholarship, funny, talented, and very personable. There was nothing not to like about him. We bonded over our teetotalism and love of pranking people. The best part, he had his own apartment at the college, which was a 4-hour drive from my parents' house. I could easily sneak up there under the guise of visiting one of my other friends, or spending the night at a local girlfriend's house. My parents didn't even have to know I had a boyfriend. Now, I had just turned 18 years old, and was enjoying my rebellious streak and newfound freedom, but I still happily lived under my parents' guidance and rules for a large part. They always encouraged me to be a free thinker and to ultimately figure out my own morals and values, and I ended up much like them, because they're honestly that awesome. My mom, wisely, encouraged me not to just sleep with anyone, and it was something I actually held to quite strongly. So while I had no qualms having sleepovers with my boyfriend, I was intent on not having sex with him. He took it pretty well and seemed to respect my decision. One week, smack dab in the middle of summer, I had 3 days off in a row at work. A drive out to see Johny was in order, and I began my travel early in the morning. He was excited to see me, and we had a great day. Nerf gun wars, reading Stephen King, making out. We went out for dinner and returned for a night of shenanigans, or so I thought. Upon entering his apartment, Johny produced a box of condoms. He had tried this before, so I wasn't fazed, and adamantly told him it wasn't happening. The events that unfolded following this seemingly unimportant interaction still haunts me today. Johnny's smile disappeared, and his eyes went cold, hauntingly cold. I was sitting at his dining room table with my back against the wall, and he was standing at the other end of the small table. "You make me sick. I'm sick of you. You play me, all you do is play me." We were serial pranksters and sarcastic in every sense of the word. While his countenance made my skin crawl, I knew he was joking. I had known Johny for years after all. "I thought about this for a long time and you're dead. I'm not doing this anymore. You make me sick. I hate you and you're dead." He was unnervingly calm, and his voice betrayed a slight hint of anger I've never heard before. I noticed him clenching his fists, popped out veins tracing up his arms. For the first time in our entire relationship, I felt unsafe with him. He held my gaze unblinking. His second-floor apartment was on campus. It was summer. I had seen nobody else in the building, no other cars in the parking lot, or even if I could get past them, which I couldn't. My two options were unlocking the balcony door and jumping, or racing 15 feet down the hallway to the dead-bolted front door, which opened inwardly, and getting down a flight of stairs. Either scenario led to an empty parking lot. I would have to get to my car or run into the woods nearby. While athletic, I had no chance against him physically. I focused on him. Half of me just knew he was kidding. He had to be. He would break into laughter any second now, and we would return to our beautiful day. He continued talking. I can't repeat what he said. It was too graphic and specific to our location to write out in a public forum. He detailed the sexual assault he had in store for me. If I survived, I would be strangled in the nearby woods, then carted off and dumped at a secluded spot we had explored together. He motioned to some bags he had on his counter. "That's where your body will be within an hour." I had enough. His plan was too well thought out to be improv. I'm small, but I'm stubborn, and would fight to the death if I had to. I also have a wicked straight face when I need to. It was my turn to hold his gaze with all the ferocity I could muster. I stood up and said the first thing that came to mind. I'm still proud of the unflinching calm I presented. Inside, I was begging God not to let me die. You're real funny. I almost believed you for a second. Wouldn't have worked anyways, because what I was going to tell you before all that happened is my dad asked me to come home tonight. He needs help first thing in the morning with the garden for my mom's birthday, because my brother hurt his back, and I told him I'll call him as soon as I was on the road, within half an hour. It was a lie and not a particularly good one, but the delivery was convincing. I dangled my phone in his face and told him he could explain to my dad why I wasn't coming home tonight if he wanted me to stay. Johnny's mouth was agape as he stared at me. I was just kidding, he mumbled, fist still clenched. See ya, I chirped, pushing past him. My gamble paid off. I grabbed my purse and shuffled down the hallway. I could feel his eyes burning through me, and the electric energy in the room as I internally screamed at myself to move slowly. The deadbolt disengaged. I walked out and fought every urge to run down the stairs. I was too far from my car if he chased me to beat him, and I refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing me scared. I walked the entire length of the car park. I've always had a habit of parking as far out as possible, next to the woods he told me he would murder me in. I knew he was watching me the entire time. I could feel his eyes follow my every movement as I drove out past his apartment. I saw his shadow in the balcony window. I waved. He stared. I drove a few miles to the nearest Walmart. It was only 8, and the sun was just starting to set. People milled through the parking lot, blissfully unaware of what I'd just gone through. I collapsed onto my steering wheel and broke down, bawling my eyes out. Then I drove the 4 hours back home, stupidly. I didn't know how to process what happened, and banished it to the recesses of my mind. I spent the next few years avoiding Johnny. The few times I thought about it, I blamed myself for being so naive. I finally told my mom 4 years after the fact, and was able to process through it. So, possible murderer ex-boyfriend, who thankfully now lives about 10,000 miles away from me. Let's not meet again. I'm here to steal all your shit. Check the pipes. This happened a couple years ago. It was a Thursday afternoon. My brother was out somewhere, and both my parents were at work, leaving me home alone. I was taking a semester off school to work, and that was my day off. So I spread my lazy body across the couch like a cream cheese, and began an excellent marathon of Locked Up Abroad. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Like any normal, well-adjusted individual, whenever I am home alone in my parents' house, and there is a knock at the door, I hide in the hallway where there are no windows, as one does. But this time, I saw the silhouette, which looked a lot like my brother, and I assume he just forgot his house keys when he left, and was now locked out. So, I went to the door and lifted the blinds to torture the unfortunate waif. When surprise, it's a stranger danger, instant horror. It was a man in his late 40s. He told me he works for the city and is here to check our water pipes or some vague shit like that. My parents wouldn't schedule his visit from the city while I was home alone, and I'm pretty sure that aside from emergencies, that shit works by appointment only, so immediately I was suspicious. I asked him if it was something he needed to come inside for, and he said it was. Because I was so taken off guard, I probably would have reluctantly let him in, but the door was locked, and I had no idea where I'd flung my keys the night before, and I was too hesitant about the whole thing to go to the trouble of searching for them to let this guy inside. So I told him I didn't have a key and couldn't let him in. He looked pretty pissed off, and I told him to come back next week on Tuesday, when my parents would be home. As time passed, I started realizing how shady this was. He didn't give me his last name. He didn't identify the company or organization he was with, just that he was with the city. He said he was there for some vague reason and needed to be let in the house without an appointment, and I watched as he left and saw that he didn't visit any other houses but my own. And I remember noticing that he was not driving a company or utility vehicle. I asked my mom about it 2 weeks later, and she had no idea what he could have been doing there, and told me he had never returned. Later that month, I saw a news report that a man with an identical description or proposed agenda had visited at least 3 other homes in my area. At one, he was refused entry, but at the other 2, after being let in, he led them to the backyard and somehow kept them occupied out there while he went to get something from his truck. Instead of going to his truck, he would actually go back into the house, steal their shit, and take off. Both his victims were elderly people, and I hate to think that what this guy could have been capable of doing if he found himself alone with me, a 20-year-old girl, in my house. Remember to never let weirdos in your house without seeing proper identification, guys. And thief posing as city employee, let's not meet. Sigh too soon. I was looking forward to spending a day out with my mom. She had taken Monday off work to spend some time with me, her 30-year-old daughter, and my 10-year-old baby boy. Going anywhere with my little man means carrying a lot of kit, changing bags, toys, pram, car seat, so I piled everything up by the front door whilst the baby napped to make our get out quicker when my mom arrived. She had drove around 20 minutes to our little Tudor-style house and parked out front. There were around 10 houses in her quiet estate, which are bordered by farmland on 3 sides, and a road leading to a busier section of the town on the other side. The neighbors are all really friendly. However, they were getting pissed off with us, as the evergreen conifer trees, which line the perimeter of our garden, were getting out of control. I fixed the car seat, and Mom took the baby out to the car as I continued to run to and from the house to get the rest of the baby gear. We had a lovely day at the park, shopping and lunch. My depression was giving me a day off, so we were all on a high. The baby started to get fuzzy, so after being out for a good 6 hours, we decided to head back to mine. I was walking towards my towering conifers to fight through them to get into my path when I honestly felt my stomach fall to the floor. Both my front door and inside door were lying wide open. My house key still in the door. I never felt so sick. I've been forgetful lately. I'm on new depression medication, and the doctor said that should help with my mind blanks. In saying that, I've never done anything as bad as walking away and leaving the door wide open like that. Terrified, I gave my mom the baby and ran into the house. At first glance, nothing was missing from the living room and no one was there. I continued into the kitchen and grabbed a knife from the rack. My Mac was still on the table, screen on so not unplugged, ready to be stolen. At this point, begin to calm down ever so slightly. The Mac would be the first thing to go, right? Taking no chances, I took the knife upstairs and checked our bedroom, bathrooms, and nursery. No one, nothing missing, thank fucking God! I let out the biggest sigh of relief, and went back to the car to get my mom and the wee man. Mom scolded me for being so stupid, and I thank God that I hadn't cut the trees in the garden down. They had probably hidden the fact that the doors were open whilst we were out. I had to get the baby bathed and into bed, but I was still on edge, so I went out to the garden to get some fresh air. I was shaking and felt sick. Sitting on our steps, which led from the kitchen down to the grass, I could see my mom and the baby at the dining table watching Toy Story again, both laughing and pointing whenever Buzz Lightyear was on the screen. Then it hit me. The screen from the Mac was on when I went into the kitchen. Someone must have touched the keyboard or the mouse. Otherwise, it would have been in sleep mode. We had been out for 6 hours, and just as I entered the kitchen, I heard a thud from upstairs. I whispered to my mom to take the baby outside and call the police. My kitchen leads into the living room and the front door. As you're running back to the back garden, something caught my eye. A short, skinny man dressed in overalls, ran out my front door. Terrified, I slammed the French doors closed and locked us out of the house. We ran down the garden and out the back gate onto the main road. The police arrived within minutes and searched the house. The next thing I heard was the man jumping down from our loft, hatched to the landing below. Our house is really small, so I had assumed I had done a thorough search. I never ever thought of checking the loft. We didn't even have ladders to get up there. The police thinks he had been upstairs and saw us coming home, so hid in the loft to wait for an opportunity to escape. I dread to think what might have happened if I took the baby straight upstairs for his bath. He's not been found. No one else saw him, and I didn't get a great look at him. I just hope he never comes back, and I'll never ever leave the house without triple checking the door. Running shorts. Hello, I'm from Sydney, Australia, and I live in a quiet, neat little suburb. It's a sort of neighborhood where I can get fresh chicken eggs from the guy up the road, and my neighbors and myself swap DVDs and give each other surplus food. So basically, a neat, no-fuss suburb where nothing should ever happen. My father is an ultra-fit runner and bike rider, and he goes through crazy amounts of running in sport shorts, and both him and my mother go to work through the week. My brother is still in high school, yet I am a university student, and my days off are through the week, like Thursdays and Tuesdays. My days off change quite often, and my schedule is erratic, which in this case is probably a really good thing. I'm a 20-year-old female and only short 50 kg. I'm not a big person at all, and I have the fitness level of a bowl of jelly, aka none. So I wouldn't stand a chance against anyone bigger than me. I know this, and so I'm always very wary around anyone I don't know. My house is small, airy, and cool, perfect for hot summer days. There's an extension sunroom on the back, with two back doors that lead out to a fair-sized garden that has a detached shed and garage, which is being used as my mother's workroom, and a main back gate that leads out onto the street. My father doesn't work a 9-to-5 job, it's 9 till 12 job, and these times vary depending on how fast he gets his work done. On my days off, I normally stay in my room on my computer doing my work. I'm a graphic designer and web designer, so I have some freelance work to prop me up while I study. When my parents leave on my days off, they normally lock the screen doors to the house, and the key is kept on a main set of keys, which are hidden in a pot in the garden. One day 3 weeks ago, I get up at 10 a.m., as you do when you're a student, and I go make myself coffee and have a shower. As I walk through the back room, I can see my father had done some washing before he left. I see 4 pairs of neon-colored running shorts, along with some other garments swaying in the breeze. After my shower, I go back into my room and start up a movie and open my work. At about 11:45, I hear a metallic clicking at the back door. Thinking that this was just my dog pinning for me, I went back to my work thinking nothing of the sounds. I then hear the sounds of a concrete block clicking against the ground. Again, I chalk this up to my dog trying to get inside. We have a loose concrete block that serves as a step at one of the back doors. I continue my work and then leave my room an hour later to get another coffee and some lunch. As I walk through the back room, I look at the clothesline again, and I notice that a pair of the shorts has slipped free of the peg holding them. So I unlock the back door and give the washing a feel to see whether it was all dry or not. It was all dry, so I proceed to take the clothes inside, locking the back door behind me. I eat my lunch, then go back into my room to do some logo concepts. My movie has stopped playing, so I was working in the quiet of the day. I suddenly hear the back gate slam, and the workroom door being slammed. These aren't unusual sounds, as my father normally puts work into the workroom as soon as he gets home, so I keep working and wait for my father to unlock the back and come into the house as usual. I wait. And I start to find it very strange that he hasn't come inside yet. I go out of my room, and I see he hasn't stepped a foot inside the house, so I open and call out the back door. I hear no response, so I make sure the back doors are locked, and I go back into my room. I was now really freaked out, and I'm not a fighter, so I go back to my room with the house phone and my mobile, and I find my paper knives for good measure. I decide the best thing to do, since the doors were locked, would be to wait quietly until my father did come home. I then hear the back gate click shut quietly, as if someone were maneuvering it into its latch. What's worse is that I don't hear a single bark from the dog. I wait for an hour until I hear the gate open again. The workroom door opens and shut, and the back door slide open. I instantly call out for my father, and he responds, "Hey, Abby!" I feel relief spreading through my core, and I go out to tell him what I just heard. When I go out to see, he's holding a pair of his running shorts, and the dog was at his heels. He asked me whether I had taken the washing off the line. I said I had, and he asked me why I had folded up a pair of his shorts and put them inside the workroom, and why the dog had been outside of the gate. I felt my stomach drop, knowing that the sounds of the gate and workroom door earlier that day had not been anyone I knew, and had not been part of my imagination. I told him about the sounds I heard, and how I had taken the washing off the line, and he looked very worried. He asked whether I had the back door locked, and whether the keys were left out of their hiding place. I say that the doors had been locked, and I hadn't seen the keys all day. My father then walked outside and checked whether the keys were in their pot, which they were. We figured out that someone must have come in and accidentally let the dog out and shut the gate behind them. Then they had tried the back doors, and with no luck, had went into the workroom to see if they could find the keys. The workroom should have been locked, but it was left open that morning. They were still in the workroom when I called out of the back door. I was lucky I didn't venture out to investigate then. The next day, we installed a lock on the gate, and did not include its key on the spare set hidden in the pot, so I'm able to lock the gate during the daytime. Person in my backyard, waiting for me in my mother's workroom, filling with my father's running shorts. Let's not meet.